On other business, I am going to bring forward a motion, as I have mentioned to Council, under other business, for Council to consider a motion pertaining to the maintaining of order during Council meeting. I'm going to ask Council Guerrero, I'll give it to her, to go around the thing, to read the motion, and somebody will second it, and then we'll have a discussion on it.
Whereas the following individuals have attended council meetings and have repeatedly disrupted the orderly conduct of council meetings and harassed council members and city staff: Annie Capps, Debbie Johnstone, Colin Pronger, Ivan Scott and Merrill Scott, Marilyn Smith, Linda Yeppenberg. And whereas these named individuals in their disorderly conduct have repeatedly contravened Section 52.1 of the Council Procedure Bylaw, which requires comments to be relevant to the bylaw under consideration at a public hearing. And whereas the City has a responsibility under its respectful workplace policy and other policies and laws to ensure an environment free of harassment for its staff and other participants. Be it resolved that Annie Capps, Debbie Johnstone, Colin Pronger, Ivan Scott and Merrill Scott, Marilyn Smith, Linda Yeppenberg be immediately prohibited from physically attending City of Surrey Council and Committee meetings until Council determines otherwise, and may participate in Council meetings and public hearings only by providing written comments. And be it further resolved that staff is authorized to take any necessary steps to enforce this prohibition, including seeking, if necessary, court orders.
Okay, seconder?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on Council? Council Hundal?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be supporting it because certainly, first thing is I question the legality of Council even doing this, and certainly before moving forward on it, I would ask that we do seek some sort of legal opinion, external legal opinion on this. The other thing for why I would not be supporting it is because I don't know of any other example where Council has ever done this at local government without seeking the court order itself. So for me, I think any individual is available to come here to voice their concerns. I may not always agree with it, but as an elected official, I just really question it, that this goes right against the core of really the community charter and allowing freedom of expression for people. And certainly in those cases where the conduct falls under the statute, such as a criminal code or a violation of a bylaw, certainly I agree and concur that I think there should be that mechanism for enforcement on it. But to identify individuals within the city or to come to council functions or council events, I certainly don't support that. Myself, being someone who did have a threat uttered to me last year, that was handled by reporting it to the police. There was an investigation. Crown Council made a determination, and that person was in fact dealt with through diversion. So I think there's other mechanisms in place for those legitimate concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Councillor Pettigrew.
Thank you. So is this live or do I have to press a button? It is, okay. Thank you. So do we have a copy of that? Because I'm having some challenges with the format and the procedure of how we're actually implementing this. In all other situations, we actually have it up on the screen. So do we have that available?
We can either, I have.
Because I think it's inappropriate for us to even be discussing this unless we actually have it in front of us to have as an item. So is that available for us?
Do you want us to make copies? I don't have a copy.
I got a copy. Well, you can have the original if you want to pass it down. Or we.
So I'm not sure about the COVID-ness of passing the paper down the line there. I would ask that staff please grab this and take this and put it up on display. It's inappropriate just for a single council member to have a copy of this. So I will leave it here, and is staff able to project it on the screen? So while they're considering that, so that is something I think is.
Just to answer Councillor Pettigrew's question, unfortunately, because of the Teams environment, the Elmo doesn't work. But if we give it to Don Kidd, I think he can display it from. So we could do that, or we could do copies.
Yeah.
That's up to council to decide.
Yeah. All right. So I think in future it'd be nice to actually have this available to us to read. So I can sit here and I could read it out to everybody else, but then that's not appropriate either. So that's just the procedures of that. Also, I agree with Councillor Hundal. This is very thin ice that we're treading on. The legalities of this, the community charter, the civil rights of people, whether they're able to do this. So I'm hoping, has staff considered this? So if I could, through the mayor to staff, if they could please answer whether our legal department has already looked at this from a legal perspective, from the community charter and from the federal Bill of Rights and so forth. It's a wrong term, I know. Have they done that?
Who would like to answer that?
Through the mayor to Councillor Pettigrew. Unfortunately, we can't discuss legal matters in an open public forum, but we'd be happy to get back to council at a later date with that information.
Yeah, thank you. It wasn't actually a legal opinion. It's just a simple yes or no. Has staff looked at this? Because if they haven't, then staff is potentially putting council in a position of jeopardy, having us vote on an item where they know some. So this is another thing that I think this would be best tabled until the next council meeting, because we could be putting ourselves in jeopardy as far as council from a legal standpoint. And then so staff has an obligation to be able to look over and to get our back, so to speak. So that is another issue of the legality of that, and I'm very concerned about that. And then, of course, there's the other issue of just the democratic rights of people to be able to express themselves. Some of these people that have been mentioned, I'm concerned about the liability against the city. I'm concerned the liability of against council members. Some of these people, I would be extremely offended if my name was mentioned in a public like this. And I would expect they'd be extremely offended as well. So this is all to do with legalities. So I think that we're treading on. I see Phillips here. I'll just say one more item here. So I will definitely in no way be supporting this. And this is, I don't think that council should be voting on this tonight. I think that it would be best to table this for 2 weeks and then get a report back from staff to find out whether legally we can do this or not. And then once we have all the information at the next council meeting, then we can have a thorough discussion on it. But this is far too in advance of anything. At this point, there's no possible way that I'd be supporting this. And if staff, through the mayor, could please just say yes or no, they've looked into this, that'd be fine.
Mr. Lawyer.
Through the mayor to Councillor Pettigrew, the issues raised by Councillor Pettigrew is covered by the doctrine of legal privilege. And so, staff is constrained by privilege from publicly opining on this matter unless if council so desires and directs staff to provide an opinion and to provide, an opinion in the relevant forum. So it's ultimately up to council.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, I would put it back to you. Just to let us know, has staff looked in? So that's my question. Has staff looked into the legalities of this? Yes or no? So that's something that you are able to answer or be able to direct staff or things.
I'm not going to answer that in a legal form. So.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely, I could not support this. It strikes me that that in normal format we would have had information presented to council, to all of council. That would have been fair and appropriate. And if there has been any legal consideration of that, that should have been dealt with all of council. I also, though, want to say that I think we often will hear things we don't want to hear. I can tell you I often hear things I don't want to hear. But it's part of democracy and part of what we have to do as elected officials. And so this is just terribly concerning to me that we would even be considering such a motion. But there are some other things. I think both Councillor Handel and Pettigrew raised a number of them. One of the things I would like to ask if there has been any documentation of the reason for such an extraordinary step by a council to ban members of the public, our taxpayers, people that are concerned and worried and participate in our city. I would like to know if staff can answer that. Is there some kind of documentation that says these people have been so egregious that we would have to bring this kind of take this kind of a step? Certainly, I've never heard anything like this. I would also like to ask staff if they have done this kind of taken this kind of step before, and I would appreciate knowing that as well. But I guess the other piece is, just from a procedural position, I'm shocked that we would get this kind of a very aggressive motion without having a notice put forward or some kind of information. I am very concerned about the people that were named. I think that is extraordinary too, and I certainly cannot support this. I'm actually quite appalled that it's brought forward.
Okay, thank you. I can answer part of that, and there has been other cities that have banned people from their council chambers. Councillor Annis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too will not be supporting it. This notice of motion was just sprung on us. We aren't able to get any legal opinions for good reason. I understand why staff isn't able to do that, but we shouldn't be voting on something that we don't have all the facts for. And I also believe that this is the place where people can be heard and should be heard. They're the ones that elected us. They're the ones that should be providing direction to us. And while we might not always like the way people present things to us, or we might not like what is being said, we still have a fiduciary responsibility to listen to them. And if they go beyond what is appropriate, then appropriate action should be taken. I don't think we should be banning anyone from City Hall without them doing something that is illegal. And so I certainly will not be supporting it. We have to have the facts before we can vote on something. It's just not good fiduciary responsibility to vote on something that you have no idea what it is you're voting on, and to be naming out individual people. I'm certain that there's other people that we may find their behavior offensive. Are we going to start banning all that don't agree with us? It would be absolutely criminal to be doing that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Against?
Yes.
Opposed?
Pettigrew, Locke, and Annis, and Hunda?
Yes.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Seconder?
Second.
All in favor? Against? Carried.